Hey, Craig, thanks for joining me today on Indispensable Appraisers. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Jeff? Appreciate the
Doing
opportunity.
definitely. I definitely appreciate you taking the time to join me today. So, Craig, first question, easy question. What is our valuation industry winning at? What are we doing good that we're really just doing a good job on?
I wish I had a long list, but unfortunately, I feel like we are losing more than we're winning, unfortunately. Now, having said that, I think we're playing defense way too much. I think in all of the situations that we're facing, whether it's lobbying, whether it's court cases, we seem to be playing defense instead of offense. And any coach will tell you you're not going to win if you only play defense. And I think that's kind of where we're coming from. Now, do I see opportunities? Absolutely. I see opportunities right now, I see opportunities in the future, but we've got to be ready to sort of change course and work to make these changes. Because if we continue on the same path, I'm afraid we've got the same outcome. Again, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting a different result. And that's where I feel that we've been for a long time. My thought process really sort of focuses on becoming greater experts. I think we've focused too much on being a generalist and trying to gather as much work as we can. Whereas I think if you focus on becoming an expert, what happens is the demand for your services goes up exponentially, or at least in conjunction with your capacity. And the axiom is the more complex the real property issue, the more there's a need for an expert. So that's my view, is that if we can focus on becoming experts again. Now, again, you and I know I've been in this field for 45 plus years. And when I first started, yes, local expertise was very impressive. Today, that's all pretty much gone. And you've got to be, in my opinion, an industry or service expert, either in a specific industry, and mine was healthcare and senior housing, or in a service area like litigation support. So those are kind of my sort of suggestions as to how to turn this around. I wish I could name 4 or 5 places that we're winning, but I think this is the opportunity for us to win.
Oh, great. Appreciate the answer. And next question is, what is the industry's biggest challenge, and or what would be the biggest challenge, or what's the runway if somebody wanted to be a specialist? Is there any coursework that maybe you're preparing, or what is the greatest challenge that we face from the valuation sector, and maybe to be a specialist? How do I get
Well,
there?
yeah, and I think there's really 2 things, and you named the first one, and that's better education. Now, we've had education around for a long time, ever since CEs were required. It's every other cycle. We're taking USPAP and we're taking the same stuff, basically. We need practical, application-oriented education. I think there is great opportunity for that. But again, that's part of what I was saying in the beginning. We've got to change our direction. And in changing that direction, we've got to think through, okay, where are the areas of opportunity? What do I need to know to get there? And I think education is step 1. Now, step 2, again, in my opinion, is that our industry profession needs to begin to recognize specialty by virtue of specialized education and some degree of certification. And this, again, is not new. Attorneys, accountants, physicians all do this. And we've somehow decided that we don't want to do it, or just ignored it. So that's my view, is that education's got to be better. My view is we need specialized education so that people can pursue an expertise. And then third, we need to recognize that expertise in the form of certification. Now, you asked me about education. Yes, I've written a course, which I hope to provide those stepwise elements as to how to choose and then execute a specialization. And I'm hoping it'll help other people. I mentored 3 generations of specialists while I was working, many of whom gone on and eclipsed my career, which I'm very proud of. They've done very well. So I'm hoping I can be in that give back stage now, writing some education, helping others kind of make those steps as well.
Great answer. Thank you. The last question, I think you answered it, talking about what is our valuation. If you were king, how would you improve looking forward? We all know the usual suspects of the negative parts about valuation. But looking forward, especially specialization in education, you think that's the foundation to improve going forward?
I do, and believe me, I don't ever want to be king. Way too much responsibility. But again, as we look at these opportunities, to me, we must focus on how to become specialists again so that people recognize, the unfortunate reality is the way that appraisers are engaged today is as a commodity. And the only way you break out of that is you find an exit. And that exit, in my opinion, again, needs to be finding a specialization, one where your passions are. You don't want to specialize in something you hate. I happen to loved old people. And the very first facility I did, I went in, talked to the people that were living there, met the guy that wired the Empire State Building. I mean, the wisdom that was encompassed in those long-term care facilities was amazing to me. So it became a passion. And so all through my career, I've tremendously enjoyed it. I ended up serving on a board of directors for a national senior industry association. So, those are the kind of opportunities that expose themselves because you have followed something that makes you more knowledgeable than someone else might be in that same field. So again, that's my view, and kind of, my closing comments are, remember that appraisers are professionals. We follow a code of ethics. We're subject to standards of practice, just like attorneys, physicians, accountants. So we need to act like professionals. And again, this education that we have already, and I think it needs to be improved, but it's one of the most rigorous in the real estate field. And many of the people that I've mentored have left the appraisal field, but they've gone on to very lucrative positions in REITs and other areas because they've been trained well. And again, that specialization may position you to actually leave the appraisal industry, but it provides that foundation for you to go. So, the question I'm often asked is, well, does specialization really work today? And I can say after 45 years, absolutely it works today. And to me, it's one of the few paths that we've got that we can overcome the challenges that are before us right now. So that's kind of my closing comment on how do we get out of here.
Great. Thank you, Craig. For anybody watching this podcast or listening to it, I really appreciate Craig's time. Again, this is part of what we need in our industry is some enthusiasm. He took his time to be a lighthouse, to talk and share. He could say, no, I don't want to go on some podcast with Jeff, and we just met. So I really appreciate that. He's excited. He's still in the industry. He cares about the industry like a lot of us do. But we need to get out there a little bit more, talk a little bit more, engage, kind of inspire each other, and generate some new ideas. So Craig, thank you for joining me.
Absolutely. My pleasure.